Marjorie Taylor Greene just dropped some crazy information about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and we have no time to waste. Now, this comes from a New York Times article that profiles Marjorie Taylor Greene ever since she split ways with MAGA. She doesn't officially resign from Congress until January 5th, so that part hasn't fully played out. But in this process, in this time period, Marjorie Taylor Greene has blown up a lot of her closest alliances in Congress, including with that of Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who has been calling her Marjorie Trader Greene or Marjorie Trader Brown because he says green grass turns brown. This guy is losing any juice that he once had, even with nicknames. Even his nicknames suck nowadays. But Marjorie talks about Donald Trump's reaction to her wanting to release the Epstein files and how he screamed at her and said, "This will hurt my friends if we release these files." Which... just think about that for a minute. Think about the company that means he keeps, what he knew his friends were doing. Think about who he is, who that means he is as a person. He is openly admitting and screaming and getting mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene because he wants to protect the Epstein class, the richest of the rich, the most powerful men in America, and I guess one woman too, Ghislaine Maxwell, that we know of, who abused young girls. So I want to read you through the most important excerpts of this article. It's quite long, so I'll do the digging for you and we'll find the most interesting portions. But I do ask that you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed below so we can hit 2 million YouTube subscribers. That is how we beat MAGA media. So, quote, "I was just so naive. Inside Marjorie Taylor Greene's breakup with Trump, how the Georgia congresswoman went from the president's loudest cheerleader to her loudest critic. 11 days after Charlie Kirk was killed in September, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the third-term Georgia congresswoman, was watching his memorial service on TV as the luminaries of the president and the conservative movement gathered to pay tribute. What stayed with Greene the longest were the last two speakers on stage. First, there was Kirk's widow, Erica, who stood in white before the crowd with tears filling her eyes and said she forgave her husband's killer. Then President Trump came on stage. Quote, "He was a missionary with a noble spirit and great, great purpose," he said of Kirk. "He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them." Marjorie Taylor Greene then butted in a few months later, quote, "That was absolutely the worst statement," Greene wrote to me in a text message months after the memorial service. In the contrast between Erica Kirk and the president, she added, quote, "It just shows where his heart is, and that's the difference, with her having a sincere Christian faith, and proves that he does not have any faith." Lord have mercy. Marjorie Taylor Greene going scorched earth on Donald Trump and just saying this guy has no faith whatsoever. But wait, it gets worse. It gets, I guess, better too. It also, Greene said, clarified something about herself. Over the past 5 years, as Trump's most notorious acolyte in Congress, she has adopted his unrepentant pugilism as her own. Yeah, Marjorie, I mean, this really does give you conflicted feelings right here because we've watched Marjorie Taylor Greene for the past 5 years or so adopt Trump's most divisive and vile rhetoric, like styles of politics, whether it's saying that your political opponents are scum or trying to dehumanize them or coming up with conspiracy theories about them in order to dehumanize them. Marjorie Taylor Greene has done it all 100 different times, and it's hard after 2 months of her having it happen to her for me to accept that she's fully learned the lesson, isn't just stepping into self-preservation mode. It's like the same thing as when Vivek Ramaswamy is okay with bigotry against minorities like trans people, bigotry against gay people. It's fine to be bigoted against this group and that group. But the second that Republicans are bigoted against Indian Americans, he has a wide amount of moral clarity. Then his eyes are wide open. It's like, dude, the bigotry should be stopped at the door at the very beginning. No bigotry should be allowed in because if you allow in any bigotry, it'll eventually hit you, right? To continue, Greene said, quote, "Our side has been trained by Donald Trump to never apologize and never admit when you're wrong." And really quickly, whether you own a business or you're about to start a business, you'll find that online marketing and building a website and getting your name out there is truly one of the hardest things to do. That's why I truly recommend Shopify as an e-commerce platform. There was a while where I was the designer, the researcher, the editor, the accountant. I was doing everything for my business at once, but Shopify helped me consolidate that, and it's been a game changer. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names to brands just getting started. Even creators like me rely on it every single day. So you can accelerate your business
your content creation. You can execute on your ideas by using Shopify, which makes it feel like you've got a whole marketing team behind you to create email campaigns, social media campaigns, design things, run your accountant. Best of all, Shopify is just a built-in e-commerce expert. They can help with everything from inventory to international shipping to processing returns. If you want to turn your business idea into a reality, check out shopify.com/Mockler for $1 per month trial. A $1 per month trial with shopify.com/Mockler. Thank you to you all, and thank you to Shopify.
She told me in her Capitol Hill office one afternoon in early December, you just keep pummeling your enemies, no matter what. And as a Christian, I don't believe in doing that. I agree with Erica Kirk, who did the hardest thing possible and said it out loud, said Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is truly realizing how toxic her political side has become as we keep reading. But again, she only had this realization when the death threats were painted or aimed towards her and her son, which of course is awful. You should never send death threats in America. But the point is, she had been riling up this type of hatred towards every Democrat in the book for years. Quote, after Charlie died, I realized that I'm a part of this toxic culture. I really started to look at my faith. I wanted to be more like Christ. The fact that her office remained the same reflected Greene's sense of where she stood. She continued to be faithful to Trump's campaign promises. If anything, she said, her sin was to have regarded them as more than slogans. Quote, that's what I'm guilty of. That's what made me, in the president's words, a traitor, was truly believing in Make America Great Again, which I perceive to be America first. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is still loyal to Donald Trump and his agenda, it seems, even though he has called her a traitor himself. Greene's last exchange with the president was by text message on November 16th. That day, she received an anonymous email in her personal Gmail account that threatened her college-age son. Quote, Derek will have his life snuffed out soon. Better watch his back. The email's subject heading using the nickname Trump had given her the day before. Marjorie Traitor Greene. It's so clear as day, the direct line between Trump's rhetoric and death threats in American politics. Greene promptly texted the information to the president. According to a source familiar with the exchange, his long reply made no mention of her son. Instead, Trump insulted her in personal terms. When she replied that children should remain off limits from their disagreements, Trump responded that she only had herself to blame. Jesus Christ. All right, let's continue to the Epstein portion. Quote, am I going to get murdered or one of my kids because he's calling me a traitor? Marjorie began to ask herself. After the hearing, Greene held a news conference at which she threatened to identify some of the men who had abused the women. Greene says she didn't know the names herself, but that she could have gotten the names from the victims. Trump called Greene to voice his displeasure. Greene was in her Capitol Hill office, and according to a staff member, everyone in the suite of rooms could hear him yelling at her as she listened to him over the speakerphone. Greene says she expressed her perplexity over his intransigence. According to Greene, Trump replied, quote, my friends will get hurt. And the context was Marjorie Taylor Greene threatened to release the names of the abusers. She threatened to get the names from the victims and then read them out in a place where she would be, legally fine, where she would be safe. When she urged Trump to invite some of Epstein's female victims to the Oval Office, she says, he angrily informed her that they have nothing to do with the merit of honor. It would be the last conversation Greene and Trump would ever have. She teamed up with a Democrat, Representative Ro Khanna of California, as well as the Republican maverick Thomas Massie, on a legislative maneuver that would compel the Justice Department to release all documents pertaining to Epstein. To say that Khanna, a progressive Democrat who had joined his colleague 4 years earlier in voting to strip Greene of her committee assignments, did not regard Greene as a natural ally was an understatement. Of course, Ro Khanna was like, but then Ro Khanna was like, eye on the ball. It doesn't matter who we're working with. We need to make sure we get this done. And actually, I respect that a lot. I respect the second way of working more. He said, I have my disagreements with both Thomas Massie and Marjorie. And listen, Thomas Massie has his disagreements with Ro Khanna, but they said for the survivors, for transparency, for the victims, we are going to put our politics aside. Quote, I had the same caricature opinion of her as everyone, Ro Khanna said. I saw her heckling President Biden at the State of the Union address. I thought she was a person on the fringes, but my view of her has completely changed. At our press conferences, she didn't even seek to speak. She was genuinely moved by the survivors, so much that we hugged each other during one of the women's testimonies. I found her to be a person of integrity and courage, considering the pressure she faced from the White House. I'm going to leave it there, but I will be covering this relentlessly. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed for more videos. Peace out.